Can you hear me?
Can hear.
Yeah. Sure.
So we don't need a mic. Well, Dr. Wareham is. We have done one interview with him, and was very exciting. And I am very pleased that he attended and accepted this interview again. And thank you very much for sharing with us. I don't need to introduce himself much, but tell me about a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon, and I retired over 20 years ago because there's a mandatory retirement age at Loma Linda.
Oh yeah?
It was at that time, and I happened to be one of those people that put in that rule. I retired at 72, and so when that time came, I retired from being a surgeon. I went overseas for a couple of years to Saudi Arabia. We ran a cardiac surgery program for the people in Saudi Arabia. They now run it themselves, but in those days we used to be intimately involved in that. And then when I came back, I was invited by cardiac surgeons in the Los Angeles division to come down and assist them in cardiac surgery. And I wanted to be doing something, so I started doing that. And the way I happened to get into the blue zone was that Buechner was here, and he was looking for the people who were 100 years old. But he heard that there was that I was working, and I was in my 90s, 90 years older than 90 years old. So that was why he happened to include me in his interview, was the fact that I was actually still working. And I worked assisting in cardiac surgery until I was 95. So that's how I happened to get that publicity.
So with 95, you literally retired.
I made up my mind while I was working that I would pick out a day and I would retire when I wanted to retire, not when I had some disability or something. And I thought, if I don't have a disability by the time I'm 95, why, I'll quit at 95. So I quit at 95.
Good. Tell me a little bit about this history about the fence. They said that you have to build up a fence, and then you ended up doing by yourself.
Anyhow, it was announced in the Women's Auxiliary that Dan Buechner was coming into town to study the old people. And my wife was with the ladies there, and she said, he ought to go up and see my husband. He's 91 years of age, and he's up there building a fence. I was building this fence to keep my dog away from my neighbor, because my neighbor objected to the dog coming and barking at it. I have a large lot, so I had to build about 250 feet of wooden fence. So I asked for bids on this, and they wanted, I think, $4,000 to build the fence. So I inquired at Home Depot, and I found out I could get the material for about $1,500. So I built it myself. And so they told Buechner that I was up there building the fence. But after they found out I was still working in cardiac surgery, they forgot all about the fence. And then they wanted a picture of me in the operating room, because, you know, people like those sensational appearing things. Although for me to be operating didn't amount to anything. I'd been doing that all my life, and when I assisted, I just did minor parts of the operation to help the surgeons. I think that it's proper for a person to retire while he has his full strength. I don't think that I should have been being the primary operator after I was, say, 72.
Okay. So it looks like when you made the decision with 95 the guys in Los Angeles, they want to keep you there.
Yes, they wanted very much to keep me assisting them and to show their real, the real truth of their interest. One group offered to pay my malpractice insurance.
With 95 years old.
So, and I could, at the present time, I could go and do the same thing I did in '95. I have the same ability now that I had then, but I needed to spend a little more time at home.
So when you are building up the fence, and then someone mentioned here about exercise, do you remember what you answer about exercise? Because they ask you if you have been to Dresden Center.
Well, I grew up on a farm. I was used to doing manual labor when I was young. And I have never carried on any activity like walking or running or things like that. That's just exercise for exercise sake. I'm of the mindset that if I do something, I want to see some results. So I have a large lot where my house is situated. It takes quite a bit of work to look after the shrubs and lawns. So I've always mowed my own lawn. I've never had a gardener, even when I was in active practice, because the advantage of looking after your own property is that it forces you to do that. The grass grows and the shrubs grow, and unless you hire it done, why, it'll grow all out of shape. So even at the present time, I mow my lawn and do the work around my yard because I'm forced to. It grows and I have to do it. A more disciplined person, of course, could get by without having things like that.
Still have a dog? We still have a dog?
A dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little Chihuahua now.
Sure.
I had two larger dogs. I had a mutt and I had a golden retriever, but they died. They died of old age. and the Chihuahua now is 18. But I understand that's beyond their natural.
Yeah. So, do you have many friends? I mean, at your age, it's kind of hard to have friends that are still around.
Yeah, that's right. I wonder about the amount I should be able to do to compare it to somebody else, but there's no one I find around that I can compare myself to. They're all gone now. In my class in medicine, there were 77, and now there are 6 of us alive.
When did you graduate?
1942.
1942. Okay. And well, tell me about a little bit about the secrets of what you attribute your longevity to.
Well, I think that one has to consider first his heredity. There are some people that just come from a good line of long-lived people.
Your parents were old?
How's that?
Your parents?
Well, my parents died my father died at 80, but my father was not an Adventist and had used tobacco.
Oh.
And so he died when he was 80 of a cancer of the colon. And my mother died when she was about 85. I have 2 grand aunts who lived to be in the high 80s. And I would presume they may get some benefit from their line of genes. So I think that I have in my family a moderate gene pool to draw from. But as you know, lifestyle outdoes the genes. I don't think there's any question about that. I have, for the last half of my life, been quite careful about my habits of activity, eating, so forth, and sleep. So I think that it is remarkable that our denomination has had the health message for the same length of time we've been in denomination. Within 3 weeks. After, that's right, after the denomination was formed. And the denomination was formed, as you know, 150 years ago. I think it was June, I'm going to pick a day, I'd say 6, but I may be wrong. But it was June, in June. 3 weeks later, Mrs. White had this big vision on healthful living. Now, there was healthful living around before she had the vision. And there were people who were ahead of Mrs. White in the health business. And that was Captain Joseph Bates, as you know.
Yeah.
Now, Captain Joseph Bates gave up the use of meat and butter and rich pastries.
And the smoking. He stopped smoking.
He stopped smoking 40 years before 1863. It's easy to remember. In 1823, Joseph Bates gave up smoking. In 1843, he gave up meat, he gave up butter, and he gave up rich desserts in Joseph Bates. And 20 years later, Mrs. White had the big vision on healthful living. Now, you put this in context. Now, you pick up any newspaper or magazine these days, and there's a big article on health and healthful living, just about like we would put out. They say the same thing. But in my lifetime, and in your lifetime, there's been a big change. In my lifetime, when I was middle-aged, they thought you would, fall apart if you didn't get meat or something like that, or certainly dairy products. Where would you get your protein? All that stuff. There was so much rubbish out there, you couldn't sort through it. And of course, the people that were a little bit afraid of Mrs. White, they forgot all about vegetarianism and all that stuff, you see. That was sort of a cult idea. But now, it's very popular, as you know. You see, the only two people who've ever demonstrated in the laboratory, that is by coronary angiography, that they can arrest and reverse coronary artery disease are Esselstyn of the Cleveland Clinic and Ornish of San Francisco of the University of San Francisco. Now, you just can't grasp the importance of this. The average person doesn't even grasp what we're talking about. But when you consider that 1/3 of the people in the United States will die of coronary disease, 1/3, a little more men than women. Now, let me tell you what Esselstyn says. And Esselstyn is no doctor above the corner drugstore. You know, doctors are doctors. I happen to be a doctor. I can tell you something. It doesn't mean anything. It has to do with how well trained you are in the area. Now, Esselstyn comes from the Cleveland Clinic. Let me tell you about the Cleveland Clinic. The Cleveland Clinic is the world's capital on coronary artery disease. Coronary angiography was discovered at the Cleveland Clinic. The first coronary bypass grafts were done at the Cleveland Clinic in 1967. They do 30 operations a day. Oh, they did that 30 years ago. I don't know what they do now on that disease. So when you're talking about coronary disease, you're talking about authority. The Cleveland Clinic is ahead of the Mayo Clinic and the Oxford Clinic and the Lady Clinic and all those when it comes to the handling of coronary disease. This is what Esselstyn says. Coronary artery disease, he says, my message is clear and absolute. Coronary artery disease need not exist, and if it does, it need not progress. That's what Esselstyn says. And both of them have shown that they can reverse it. Now, you turn on the TV and they're talking about the indebtedness of this country. And we're really in debt. And you know how many dollars we're in debt in this country? 17 trillion. You know how far we go behind each year in paying our bills? $1 trillion. You know how much health care is in this country per year? 2.2 trillion, that's 4 years back. So I know it's much higher now. It's probably 3 trillion now. All right, and you just listen to what I say. If you can reduce the cost of health care in this country by 1/3, you could save $1 trillion, and we could balance the budget on health care alone. On health care alone.
Let's vote for him for president.
You see?
But that's
So, the solution is easy. If they brought me to Washington, D.C., I could tell them in 5 minutes how to solve the whole problem. Not raise taxes. Not raise taxes. Not do a single thing. Just nail one thing. Get them on an Adventist program. Now, there have been some very fine books written, like The Blue Zone, written by Buechner and so forth and so on. But let me point out to you that Buechner in this book describes the places where the people live the longest. Now, if you just take a look at this book, and you'll read this book, you'll find this, that all these people live under primitive conditions. I'm talking about Okinawa, I'm talking about Sardinia, I'm talking about Costa Rica. These people are living with the sheep and the goats. Now, I'm not depreciating them. I used to live with sheep and goats myself. But they're not in a highly developed modern society. These are not professional people, people that are that are holding responsible positions, that are working offices, that have sedentary jobs. These are farmers out digging in the hills. You read the book, you'll find that out. Now, the exception to this is, in the Blue Zones, they describe the Adventist Church. And you know whom they're quoting? They're quoting Gary Fraser of the School of Public Health and his colleagues, who wrote a paper in 2001. And it says, the name of the paper says, 10 years of life. That's the name of the paper. 10 years of life. You see, is it a choice? Well, it is a choice. 10 years of life. And this is the most significant medical paper, I think, ever written. Now, let me explain to you why. Because an Adventist male who is a vegetarian will outlive a California male in the regular population by 9.5 years. Now we're not talking about somebody that's running around the hills and digging with a spade. We're talking about 32,000 people that were studied. 34,000, pardon me. 34,000 people studied. That's a pretty good sample. Now, I happen to be in the medical field. I know what papers are about and what statistics are about and so forth. You study 34,000 people and you've got a solid sample. That's just not light discussion. That's real. And these are just the same people that you have all over the civilized world. When Dan Buechner writes his book, he's writing about these people running around on the hills, and the only people that belong to a developed industrial society are the Seventh-day Adventists. And we outlive all these people. We're the longest living people in the world. They always count that little phrase, the longest lived people studied. You show me somebody who lives longer than Seventh-day Adventists. They don't exist. We're the longest living people in the world, and we're in a highly developed California. California is no slouch. We may be in debt, but we reproduce.
Great.
Maybe somebody wants to ask me a question.
Yeah, we are going to
Anybody
jump to
want to
that.
ask me a question?
Tell us about your diet.
What's your diet?
My diet?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a vegan. Now, it used to be that vegans were considered to be sort of in the fringe, you know. Those people that were sort of extreme, you know, they'd be here, dairy products. But I want to point out to you that when Esselstyn and Ornish reversed coronary artery disease, they reversed it. Coronary artery disease kills 1/3 of the people in the United States, and they reversed it. You just stop and think about that. See, what did they do it on? They did it on a vegan, low-fat diet. Do you know why they did it on a vegan diet? Is it because any animal products will keep your cholesterol up? You can't get the cholesterol down. Now, you can reduce it, by leaving the fat off. But Campbell of Cornell, who wrote that excellent book, The China Study, says that animal proteins are as bad at raising blood cholesterol as are the animal proteins are as bad as animal fat. So you take and pour off the cream and drink the skim milk, the protein will get you. If you can lower the cholesterol and you can reverse coronary artery disease on a vegan diet, you can't do it even if you're drinking milk and taking this proteins. It has to be vegan. Animal proteins are not a friend. And that's what I do. Now, I'll have to admit that I grew up on a farm. I always considered milk a messy business. I milked the cows. If you ever milk a cow, it's not the most hygienic procedure. And I never drink milk out of the glass. My mother used it in cooking and so forth, but I never did drink milk out of the glass or eat eggs as such. Now, she used them in the cooking and everything like that. So I have that background of being light on animal products. Now, I didn't do it for any health reasons. It's just that I didn't care for them. But when I found out I didn't need them, boy, they were out the door. I'll tell you, anytime I can drink a glass of soy milk, I'm not going to drink the secretions of a cow. You put these out. We always use these nice phrases like, I'm going to have a T-bone steak. You're not going to say, I'm going to eat a piece of dead cow. You see? We dress it up. We don't say what it actually is. But milk is nothing but a secretion out of a cow. And so, why tamper with it? And now we know. Yes?
Can I ask another question? How about your health? Because many people in the blue zones, they live longer, but they have all ailments. They have lots of pills and things like that.
Well, I haven't an ache or pain of any kind, and I have no headaches, no backaches, nothing. Incidentally, I broke my back one time in an automobile accident too. Totaled the car, and I have a crushed vertebra, but I don't have any backaches with a crushed vertebra. I don't have any arthritis, nothing. And I haven't had a cold. I can't remember when I had a cold or the flu. Now, I have an advantage now, other than as I don't go anyplace. I'm at home, so.
You have a large lot there to walk around. No pills?
How's that?
No pills?
I take a multiple vitamin. I do take a little medicine for my blood pressure. High blood pressure runs in my family, and my blood pressure started to go up about 3 or 4 years ago. So I take a little medicine to keep my blood pressure down.
You didn't have any major disease in your life that you have been in the hospital and serious thing?
Well, I'll tell you something that most people don't know, and that is I had pulmonary tuberculosis. I never talk about it, never write about it, and say anything about it. But I spent 9 months in the hospital with pulmonary tuberculosis.
You were young on that. Very young, when you were very young.
I was when I got out of the Navy. Yeah. They discovered when I got out of the Navy. Yeah?
Ornish also talks about other factors that to reverse the coronary, and one is stress, and he talks about eliminating and controlling our stress. How do you relate to that? Stress.
I know that lifestyle is a holistic thing, and I'm going to deal with your stress statement here. I think that the Adventists, Fraser in his article, he broke down what extended your life. And you know what extended your life from most of the habits you had? Eating nuts. Eating nuts will extend your life 3.75 years. 3.74 years. And that comes ahead of high-level Zen exercise, which will extend your life 3.73 years. Now, veganism, not veganism, vegetarianism, that's actually like a little vegetarian, will extend your life 1.53 years. And being lean will extend your life 1.41 years. And never having smoked will extend your life 1.75 years. Now I'm getting back to this business of stress. As being a cardiac surgeon, I think I should understand what stress is to a certain degree. If you lose the child of a widow lady, the only child, you have a certain amount of stress. You know what I mean? Yeah. You operate on a losing. You go out in the waiting room and talk to the mother and say, I just lost your only child on the table. So I think I have a little understanding of stress. But let me say this, that I did not live a stressful life. Even though I was quite active in cardiac surgery, and I was to school here all my professional life and did cardiac and pulmonary surgery and so on. Because according to the biblical instructions given to us by Christ himself, we're not to worry. And Paul makes it very clear in his writing to the Philippians and to the Thessalonians, in everything give thanks, even the misfortunes. And be not anxious, you see, about anything. But in everything, by prayer and supplication, make your request known to God. This is how the Philippians is probably known. So for a Christian, he has a great advantage. He has tremendous security. I don't wish to tread on anybody's toes or say anything that is critical, but a Christian shouldn't be spending much time in stress and in worry. It is not biblical. And it's true that the Adventists live longer because they're vegetarian. How much longer? 1.53 years. They must have something else going for them. I think they have going for them is this great body of spiritual truth. We don't appreciate this like we should. If you're going to take the Bible and take it literally, you have tremendous security. Professionally, you know, in every way, you see. So, if you're having stress in your life, it's time for you to start to read the Bible and to take it seriously. Take it seriously. What did Christ say? He says, what are you worrying about? You can't add any stature. You can't do anything about it. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Don't worry about tomorrow, so forth and so on. So, anyhow, that's my approach to the matter.
Anybody else?
I want to say one thing. You can practice your lifestyle, not only in eating and so forth, but the way you think. When I go to bed at night, and everybody has problems, you think maybe he doesn't have any problems. He's a wealthy retired doctor. He doesn't know what it is. But when I go to bed at night, I do not hash over anything. And if I say anything to my brain, it is this: I am here to sleep, and that's my purpose here. I'm not here to settle any problems of any kind. And you can train your mind to do that. Think of some Bible promises. The Bible's full of promises.
Perfect.
God's communicated with us. We're not just drifting around here, not knowing what it's about. We know where we came from. We know why we're here. We know where we're going. Now, not everybody has that advantage, but the Adventists do. And my opinion is, now this is not scientific, my opinion is Adventist longevity is due to their spiritual understanding. And you can add to it by being a vegan and getting out and exercising and running down the road and doing all those things. Those all help. But you've got to have complete security and peace of mind and know where you fit in this great cosmos.
In many places they mention about a purpose in life and how purpose in life make people to live longer and overcome the stress. And it's clear after what Dr. Wareham said that we have purpose in life. I mean, we have the biggest or the main purpose in life that we can imagine in any other place. I usually, when I talk about stress, I talk about Viktor Frankl, that it starts with the purpose in life thing. And he was a Jewish that was in the Nazi camp of concentration, and all of his friends were dying. So the purpose in life there was very low for him, and he survived with that idea. So I think about ourselves. We have everything to explain our existence here. Isn't that true? We have everything. We have a purpose. We know the past. We know why we are here in the present, and we know what's happening in the future.
Now you just stop and consider this one verse out of Thessalonians. In everything give thanks. Everything. You might think, oh, that's sort of a little mistake that has slipped in there. Paul didn't really understand, or didn't really mean everything, not everything. Mrs. White says, in commenting on this verse, that means even the things that appear to be against you, you're to give thanks for. So if you have some misfortune in your life, something comes along, it's bad, in everything give thanks.
Anybody else with a question? Is your chance to ask Dr. Wareham.
You will pardon me for lecturing you. I think that's something comes along with age. One should sort of restrain himself. I don't get a chance to talk to very many people, and you people are suffering as a result. But as you notice, as they say, I may be wrong, but I'm not in doubt. And that's and you see, here you are, young enough to be my children and grandchildren, you see. So that gives me a little platform to lecture to you. And then I've been around the block a few times, and I know what's going on. And I've seen what there is to be seen. But let me tell you this. That the most fortunate thing that we have, and get up each morning and thank God for it, is this great body of spiritual information we have. And I know that, it used to be that people sort of had to push Miss White off to the side because she had that meat-eating business in there. But now that that's gone, I'll tell you, that body of information which he gave us, including the great vision on healthful living, 150 years ago, June, we knew everything that we know now back then, 150 years ago. And the rest of the world was wandering around in the darkness. They thought it was healthy to use tobacco. Now those are the great scientific medical centers. I can tell you, even Johns Hopkins was not putting out very much was worthwhile in the early part of the 20th century. The 1900s. You were better off if you didn't see a doctor up until about 1920. Better off. We don't come from a great heritage, I can tell you that the MD film.
Well, there is still going around this business about fish oil that we never entered in this fish oil because this is not ours. It's not our principle to push on fish. And now they are coming with the studies that fish oil might not be that good for you. It might not be good for the heart, it might increase your risk of cancer, and say, oops.
Well, it's interesting. We go through little, as it were, developments in the scientific world. But we've had all the information we need to have on healthful living. We've got it all.
So do you think that family is important? We didn't talk about family. How old is your wife?
My wife is younger than I am by 14 years. Incidentally, is not a vegetarian and doesn't have good health. She has arthritis and so forth, but she's gradually learning. Even you can learn from your own husband or wife. But the people in my own family don't necessarily subscribe to my. And this is the other thing. I want to say one thing. You might get the idea I preach to them. I say not one word. There's one thing you don't do within your own family. One of the advice I'd like to give to every person who gets married and those who are married: don't try to change your partner. You don't change people after they've got out of the diaper stage. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm seeing compromises within the church of using caffeine, serving coffee at the church here. The general population of turning over to eating meat. Is it because we want to be so much like the world to be accepted? Or how do you see this constant revolving?
I'm sorry, my hearing isn't good enough to hear you. I do have hearing aids, but I don't wear them. You know what I mean? I have a son who's an ENT doctor who forced the hearing aids on me. And they're at home in a jar. But I get by most of the time without them. Would you tell me?
She's saying that in the church we are seeing many people start drinking coffee and eating meat now. And then why is that happening?
Is it a compromise trying to be so much like the world to
Yeah.
be accepted? Or is just because we see a large amount of Adventists now are turning to eating meat and drinking coffee as a regular thing?
I buy the whole bundle of healthful living. You know, you read in the newspapers and articles that in coffee there are antioxidants and there are various little, you know, things that are good for it. Well, we've had the body of healthful living as a package, and I buy the whole thing. I don't even bother reading those things. I can't tell you what the ill effects of coffee are. I know that it has caffeine in it, and keeps you awake at night. You have enough trouble sleeping without it. So I don't get into those fine points. I accept the whole health message as a bundle, including veganism.
But do you see the church going kind of weak in the health reform?
Well, the church is sort of weak all over. You know, it isn't in the health principles. We're weak across the border. Our divorce rate in the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the same as the divorce rate among people who are not church members. Isn't that right? It's just part of the, as I say to my wife whenever she starts to mention something that's negative, we live in an imperfect world. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And the church is enfeebled. That's the word Mrs. White used. Enfeebled, she calls it. And we have to do what we can in our own little sphere to do what we can to hold it up. And, you know, those statements that have been made, the brightest light among us will go out before the end of time. The brightest light. Where does that leave me? The little dim candle down here. have to search for sincerity of purpose, and really have a devotional life. We know that we have to eat 3 times, if not at least twice a day. We have to eat in order to sustain the body. We've got to take and have a spiritual reinforcement. We've got to have times of meditation and prayer. It's so easy to neglect those sort of things. But one will not have strength of God.
How long have you been married?
I'm married at 50, so that'd be 63 years. And I'd like to say we've never had any problems in our family, never an argument, never a disagreement. That is straight out and out falsehood. But I'll tell you, Christianity is a great thing for healing all wounds, all problems. It's the great answer. And it's so easy to know what truth is, If you're going to be a Christian, you can either be a Seventh-day Adventist or a Roman Catholic. Nothing else makes any sense. You just stop and figure it out. All these fine Protestant churches, what are they protesting against? Worshiping upon the day established by the Roman Church. So all you got to choose is whether you want to be a Catholic or a Seventh-day Adventist. Very simple. I choose to be a Seventh-day Adventist. Live healthfully, live long.
Well, one more question.
One more question. Now that you are retired, how do you keep yourself occupied?
No problem. First, I don't have much energy, and I spend a lot of time lying down, sleeping, resting, and the rest of the time that has never been a problem with me. I think that has to do with the person's disposition somewhat too. I'm not one of these people that are up on their tiptoes, have to be doing something all the time. I'm a person that has to say to myself, look, this is the list of things you've got to do today. Get at it. Go. And I'm so glad when they're over and then I lie down. So I can't speak for other people in the framework of their particular personality. I know there are people that have to be doing things, but not I. I can just sit here and do nothing and think of nothing.
That's how you keep your stress down.
That's how you keep your stress down.
I have a statement about stress, and I hesitate to use it. I think it's a self-imposed luxury. People talk to me about stress. Now, I'm talking about in the Christian context. If you're not a Christian, if you're an atheist, I can see why you have stress. There's lots to have stress about. Everything goes wrong. And let me tell you this. The pessimists in this world are the smartest people. If you're an optimist, you're probably not very bright. And that's where I fit. But the point is, that if you're bright, you will be depressed. Things are bad. You're going to die. Oh, I can get up in the morning and say, here I am. I'm 98 years old. In a couple of months I'll be 99. I'll be dead in a few months. Just concentrate on that for a while for a pleasant thought. Or I can get up in the morning and say, here I am. Just think, I'll be gone in a few weeks, and then I'll be in paradise, according to our understanding of things. I mean, why do you all hang around here? Nothing in this world to grab onto or hang on. It's all just a matter of approach and the way you look at it. So, to summarize, I think the big advantage health-wise that the Adventists have is their body of spiritual truth. And you can tap onto it these other little things, you know, vigorous exercise, run a mile, 4 miles a day, you know, haven't had a piece of meat or drunk any milk or anything for 50 years. You can put all that on it. That's pretty minor stuff.
One more question.
When the fellow interviewed you for the book, right? Were you able to advocate a spiritual component as essential?
When they interviewed you for the Dan Buettner, were you able to emphasize the spiritual part, or they passed this?
Well, I must say I didn't get into any discussion of that. No, I didn't. I recognized that he was looking for certain particular things. He asked me the questions. I answered them. I didn't lecture him like I'm lecturing you. I can be receptive to just answering questions, and I did that with him. Buettner himself, of course, was very impressed with the Adventist Church. No question. He's fully convinced of the body of truth that they have. We did have that discussion.
Because we have a paper there in the foyer that has the characteristics of the blue zone, and in the Loma Linda one is faith. That is separate than the other three that they have in the book. Faith is a very important factor.
Yeah, I think Buettner is actually convinced enough to be an Adventist if he cared to make that sacrifice. I shouldn't speak for him. But any intelligent person that takes a good, sharp look at the Adventist faith is in trouble, in real trouble. We've got the truth, and it's so simple and clear-cut, it can be understood by a person who's retarded.
Okay, if we don't have more questions, we will finish this part here, and we have a couple of minutes to study the Bible. We appreciate your presence here, and we will invite you over next year.